Help support the show by joining the Patreon or becoming a YouTube member. Also, hit that like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
So, news broke yesterday that the Arizona Cardinals are intending to release Kyler at the start of the league new year if they cannot find anybody to trade for Kyler Murray. There are a million reasons why people aren't going to make the trade for Kyler Murray, especially if the Cardinals have made it clear that they are going to be willing to release Kyler Murray. And we'll explain that here in this video. But this got people to think, well, Kyler Murray's going to be available. Should the Browns be interested in Kyler Murray if he's available? And the answer is obviously yes. The Browns should not just be interested. They should do every bit of their due diligence and try to land Kyler Murray, because that's not an opportunity at the price that it's going to be available at that they can say no to. Now, first thing people might ask for is, okay, how much is Kyler Murray going to cost, right? What is the price on Kyler Murray? How expensive would he be? The answer is he's not going to be expensive at all. He is going to sign for the vet minimum. Usually the second question after I say that is, why in the world would Kyler Murray take the veteran minimum? Here's why. Arizona owes him about $38 or $36 million this year, guaranteed, no matter what. So if Kyler Murray signs for the minimum, the Arizona Cardinals have to offset the salary that he's going to have from his new team with whatever money that's left over. So if Kyler is owed $36 million, he signs for the $1.2 million veteran minimum, then that means that the Cardinals are on the hook for $34.8 million of his contract and on the salary cap. But his new team that he signed for only has to worry about the $1.2 million that they're paying Kyler Murray. See, Kyler Murray is going to get paid that money for this season regardless. No matter what happens, he is going to get $36 million this year. The only way that changes is if somebody offers him more than $36 million this year to play football. And that is not going to happen, because if somebody were willing to pay more than $36 million for Kyler Murray, they would have been willing to trade for Kyler Murray. But since we're at this point, it's obvious nobody has been willing to trade for Kyler Murray. So that means that he's going to sign the veteran minimum. This means that Kyler Murray is 100% a lock to get the veteran minimum. Because, again, the money, like let's say if you're a team and you want to sign Kyler Murray and Kyler wants $10 million, Kyler's not going to make $36 million plus $10 million in new money. He's going to make $36 million. The only difference is that Arizona would only be responsible for 26 of that $36 million, and his new team would be responsible on the cap for 10. So since there is no incentive to pay Kyler Murray more money in free agency, that means he's going to sign the minimum, because the incentive to signing the minimum means that he's going to take up very minimal space on the salary cap for whatever team he signs to, which means that team's going to be able to build around him much better, because it doesn't benefit Kyler to sign for more money. Again, the Cardinals have to offset whatever money he's making this year with the guaranteed money left in his contract. So if Kyler is making $1.2 million this year, the Cardinals have to offset that with his guaranteed money. They would have to give him $34 million, and that would have to come out the Cardinal salary cap. If somebody decided to pay Kyler Murray $20 million, Kyler still at the end of the day would only bring home the $36 million. The only difference would be how it's offsetted, and it would be more split between the team and the Arizona Cardinals. So there is no reason for any team to offer Kyler Murray more than the minimum. So it's not going to happen. I know people think, oh, well, there's going to be multiple teams bidding. The price is going to go up. That's not how this is going to work, because, again, the money makes no difference to Kyler Murray. He's going to make $36 million this year regardless of what he's technically getting paid for by the team that wants to sign him. If the Browns are like, we're willing to pay $30 million for Kyler Murray, and the Falcons are only willing to pay $20 million for Kyler Murray, it makes no difference to Kyler Murray. Honestly, it would just negatively offset that money more in the direction of the team that would give him that contract, which is why it's not going to happen. So again, Kyler's going to be signing the minimum. I know there's a great deal of hesitation around believing that. I hope I made that make sense to some people who don't understand it. But the bottom line, even if you don't understand it, Kyler's going to have to sign for the minimum. There's no doubt about it. The math works out to where that's the only thing that makes sense. The only way that he wouldn't sign for the minimum if his market value was more than the guaranteed money that he had left on his contract. And given that nobody's trading for that money right now, it's obvious that he's not getting that value off his contract. So he's going to be in the free agent market. He's going to get the minimum. If you need to understand this, for some of my people who remember some local stories, remember when Bo Pelini got fired from Nebraska and then took the job at my alma mater, the great University of Youngstown State. And he basically took almost nothing as his salary as a head coach because Nebraska had guarantees left in his deal so that whatever Youngstown would pay would only offset what Nebraska owes him. So he was going to get his money regardless. It didn't matter if Youngstown paid him $200K, $100K, or $50K. He wasn't getting extra money. All that money was going to do was offset what he has coming from Arizona. So because that's the case, Bo Pelini took the minimum at Youngstown and forced Nebraska to basically pay out his entire contract. That is the Kyler Murray situation. It does not benefit him to take more than the minimum. Basically, Arizona has to pay him the remaining $36.8 million in his contract because that was guaranteed money and they do owe that money to him for this season. So they're still going to have to cut that check. The only difference is how much that check is going to be paid by another team. And because that's the only thing that will change, right? If somebody decided they wanted to pay Kyler Murray $10 million a year, Kyler's still getting $36 million. It's just $10 million of that 36 is just going to be paid for by his new team instead of the Arizona Cardinals. And since that's how that's going to work, it makes no sense to offer Kyler Murray a bunch of new money because it's not like it's going to be an incentive to Kyler Murray. It would just act as a negative incentive for your team and Kyler Murray as far as considering your team. And that's why Kyler's going to play for the minimum. If you have any questions, please go hit up guys like Jack Duffin who can explain this more thoroughly, more technically than I do. But that's my best way of explaining it. He's going to play for the minimum. It's a similar situation to what happened with Russell Wilson, right? Where Russell Wilson decided to take the minimum. This is pretty similar to that. So Kyler Murray is going to be available and he's not going to be expensive. The hesitation I've had about bringing in Kyler Murray has been simple. Kyler Murray would be expensive to bring in. He would cost draft assets and he would cost a significant amount of your cap. Well, you're not going to have to trade for him and he's not going to take up much of your cap. So if you're the Cleveland Browns and Kyler Murray wants to come here, I think the answer is obvious. You have to say yes. There's no reason, not a single good reason, to say no. The Browns don't have any quarterbacks on this roster that have been so good that you would feel like you're missing out if you're not giving them the opportunity to start this year. There's just none of them are like that. You know, Deshaun Watson is washed. Dylan Gabriel's not good. Shedeur Sanders, not that great. So Kyler Murray, you would definitely take Kyler over all three of those options. And even if it doesn't work out with Kyler, it's only the vet minimum. It costs you nothing. It would actually be cheaper than trying to get Marcus Mariota, who would be like $8 million, right? Like Geno Smith would probably be more expensive than Kyler Murray, if you think about it. So he's going to be one of the cheapest options available. He is at an age where he could still be pretty good, 28, about to be 29. And he's not a bad quarterback. I mean, career touchdown interception ratio passing 121-60. He has, what's his rushing touchdowns look like? Let me pull that up real quick. Career rushing touchdowns, 32 rushing touchdowns. He's not a bad quarterback. He is, at the very least, a starting caliber quarterback. So if you're the Browns and you don't have a guaranteed starting caliber quarterback, yeah, you can't say no to Kyler Murray. Like that would be ridiculous. Now, the real question is, would Kyler Murray find an opportunity like Cleveland attractive? I think there are ways that the Browns can make Cleveland be interesting to Kyler. I don't know if we beat out everybody that would be interested in him, right? Like, let's say Atlanta came calling for Kyler. Would that be something that's interesting to him? Roster-wise, it would make a ton of sense. But then you look at Kevin Stefanski's offense, and maybe that doesn't make much sense to you, right? You know, the main one people are going with is the Vikings. And the Vikings do make a lot of sense for Kyler Murray. You look at that roster, they're not that far away. But if you're Kyler Murray, you look at that offense, and it's not necessarily something that's suited to your skill set as a quarterback. Kyler is a smaller guy who thrives when he can roll out, get out the pocket, and make some improvisational plays with his legs and with his arm. What you have to do in KOC's offense is a lot of throwing from the pocket. There is one coach who has a use case similar to Kyler Murray at the quarterback position that has worked with short, mobile quarterbacks and had success, that could be able to make an argument to Kyler that might be appealing to him. Todd Monken is uniquely positioned to do that. He can show off all the tape with Lamar Jackson that he put in and say, we can do the same thing with you. You know, there is that, right? Maybe Kyler Murray has a good relationship with Myles Garrett. Both of them have some crossover when Myles was at Texas A&M. I don't know what kind of relationship they have, but they're, you know, maybe it's like an Aggie stick together type situation, or maybe Texas guys stick together situation. Kyler has a great relationship with Myles, and Myles has been stressing to Kyler that if we had a quarterback like you, we'd be able to get some things done because this defense is ready to go. And Kyler thinks he could be that guy. It's not far-fetched to think that Kyler could look at Cleveland and say, this is a fine landing spot for me because I like what Todd Monken's doing. They have promised to invest in the offensive line and at wide receiver. They have showed me what they're trying to do at offensive line and wide receiver. And I have, you know, maybe he's friends with Myles Garrett and Myles really wants him here. He's going to push to recruit him. I don't know. But the Todd Monken offense, you know, there's a use case for a quarterback just like you, you know, with a similar skill set to you that you've been compared to a lot, that you think you can have similar levels of success if you're Kyler Murray. And I think that's the sell there. But it's funny to me how the Browns can be absent of a quarterback for basically the entirety of their return, and then Kyler Murray becomes available. And some Browns fans think the Browns are too good for fucking Kyler Murray. I put out a tweet when this happened of like, hey, man, if Kyler wants to come to Cleveland, the Browns cannot say no to that. And there were so many people that were like, no, we should say no to Kyler Murray. If Kyler Murray had his exact same career happen in Cleveland that has happened in Arizona, we'd be calling him the best quarterback in Cleveland Browns franchise history. Like, I get it. Kyler Murray is not one of the top names in the NFL, but he's better than every option we have at quarterback. He's better than anybody we could draft, and he's better than anybody we can sign, and he's better than everybody on our roster. So, yeah, if Kyler Murray wants to play for the Cleveland Browns, the Browns should do more than entertain it. They should get the deal done immediately because it would be a bailout from the heavens of this whole entire screwed up Deshaun Watson situation. It would be the biggest bailout that we could receive. Like, literally, pray, look up, hope something gets delivered in the rain, and boom, little baby Kyler Murray. That would be the biggest bailout to this whole thing we could get. Kyler Murray on the minimum? Yes. Outside of getting the number 1 pick and drafting Fernando Mendoza, this is the biggest bailout that the Browns could have gotten. This is the kind of break that we've been begging for the Browns to get at the quarterback position if he wants to come to Cleveland. And I know people are reflexively, whenever I say that, going to be like, why would he want to come to Cleveland? But look at the Browns situation. They have an elite defense, and you can make the argument that if we had Kyler Murray, especially to Kyler Murray, who would think highly of himself, you could say to Kyler Murray, if we had you, we would be a 10-win team back-to-back. All we need is better quarterback play. We're going to get the offensive line. We're going to get some wide receivers. All we need is you at the minimum. And this team can be really good because we have the best defensive player in the world. And also that defensive player knows you personally, went to the same school you did, and wants you here. They both live in LA in the off season. Like, they probably have a relationship. It wouldn't be far-fetched. Also, Cleveland offers you the offensive coordinator that is credited for getting Lamar's career to where the heights that it's gotten to the last 2 years. So you're saying to yourself, like, that's more attractive to me than playing with Aaron Glenn? Kevin O'Connell is definitely attractive, but that's not the style of offense you've thrived in. That's kind of the style of offense that Drew Petzing ran that you struggled in, right? The same can be said with Kevin Stefanski in Atlanta. Right? Like, the roster offensively, as it stands right now, certainly more attractive than Cleveland, but that defense is not Cleveland, and Kevin Stefanski's running the offense, and Drew Petzing is your last offensive coordinator. You clearly had issues with that offense, and guess who guess who was a disciple of Kevin Stefanski? Drew Petzing. So the Shanahan wide zone stuff, that's not really Kyler's bag, and that's what the better options offer him, right? The Minnesota Vikings are of that vein. The Atlanta Falcons are of that vein. He might not be eager to return to that kind of offense. He might look at something like Cleveland and say, hey, the defense is good enough. I have friends out there, maybe. I don't know. That seemed like a problem with him in Arizona, not having friends. And I think this offense can work with me at it because it's more attuned to my skill sets. I don't think it's ridiculous. Do I think it's like the most likely thing in the world? No, I would probably put it at like a 40% chance of happening. But I don't think it's a percentage that you should ignore. I think it's obvious that the Browns should do this. I think the argument you have to make is, should Kyler do this? And that's the hill that has to be climbed, because Kyler's going to sign somewhere for the minimum. And he's going to want to sign somewhere where he feels like he can win games. And part of winning games is having a really good defense. A huge part of winning games is having a really good defense. I mean, look at the teams that made the Super Bowl this year. Wasn't quarterback play driven, right? Like, Drake May played 4 terrible games, got to the Super Bowl because of defense. He saw that just like everybody else did. So, yeah, if Kyler Murray comes knocking and he wants to play here, obviously the Browns should do it. But I wouldn't sleep on the idea that Kyler would find this as an option, a viable option for him. Is it where he's his favorite spot? I don't know. But I could see it being pitched to him, and this pitch being more attractive than people give it credit for. So, yeah, the Browns should definitely pursue this. The Browns should definitely take this seriously. The Browns should get in on this, because it's either go for Kyler Murray, who's a 2-time Pro Bowler, who has a track record of being good, who's under 30, who's going to play for the vet minimum, or trying to get into the sweepstakes to pay Malik Willis after 3 starts $30 million. Not really interested in that. Or overdrafting Ty Simpson, or overdrafting Drew Aller, or rolling the dice on one of your 3rd or 5th round picks from last year, or rolling the dice on a quarterback who tore his Achilles twice, and the last time we saw him looked cooked. I think the obvious answer is go for Kyler Murray for the minimum if you can get him. I think that is very obvious, the answer that the Browns should do. It's the question is, will Kyler want to come here? And, I think there are reasons that could make sense. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Everybody have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.